Hi, so that's not helpful right now. Hi, so I am going to be doing a little bit of backwards editing to this video because I completely forgot to do the screencast while I was filming myself talk about these directions for Project 3A. So you may want to have this pulled up, this assignment, Project 3A 5-page draft, so that while I'm talking about these directions for peer review this week, you can just like listen to me talk about that. So take a moment, pause this video, pull up this assignment, and then I'll talk through things to think about with peer review this week. Earlier, you submitted a draft, a 2 to 4 page draft for me to review so that I can comment on things like formatting, on the structure of your paragraphs. And then you're going to use that feedback, which hopefully I'll have to you early in the week, as early in the week as I possibly can. You're going to use that feedback or continue to add onto your draft to get ready for peer response, and then give each other some more developed feedback. That will give us some time between doing peer review and getting my feedback before the final draft of the paper is due for you to schedule a conference with me if you need to do more peer review with your classmates, to schedule a visit to the Writing Center to keep working on your paper, or to send questions to our peer mentor if that's helpful too. So I want us to make sure we build in that time to review writing, to maybe even just put it aside for a little bit, maybe 2 days after you do your 5-page draft where you don't look at the writing. Maybe you're doing some reading still for it, but you kind of can come back to the paper with fresh eyes then, and you read it out loud to yourself so that you can hear how your argument is coming together. In your rhetorical reflections, I'm able to see some really good thinking about your purposes and how you really want to reach those audiences. I've seen some commentary on the best strategies for organization so that your argument is readable. This is not a short essay. It's probably not the longest paper that you'll ever write in school, but it's long enough that you need to think very clearly about how each paragraph fits into the whole picture. Let's just take a quick look at the peer response assignment. So here's that assignment for continuing to develop your draft for Project 3A, and I want you to submit a minimum 5-page draft to your peer group for feedback by Friday night. You can submit that draft at any point in the week, but Friday night will be that deadline. And then, so that Saturday and Sunday, everybody can find a little bit of time to complete 2 peer reviews. And like I note here, please budget 1 hour to work through this task. If you've got peer drafts up early, then maybe that gives your peers an opportunity to work a little bit earlier than Saturday or Sunday, because I know the weekends are when a lot of you are doing your work, but depending on which weekend it is, it may not be the easiest time to schedule things in. So here's what you're going to be focusing on in that peer review. I want you definitely to think about these 4 prompts. What do you identify as the major claim of the paper? Do you see that argument thread throughout the paper, or does another argument stand out to you? Sometimes, as we're drafting, what we intend to argue actually ends up becoming about something else. I know some of you experienced this in Project 2 when you set out to ask a question and then really kind of figured out, wait, the question I really want to ask, or the thing I really want to know about is this other thing. That makes sense. That's a thing that happens in the research and writing process. So as you're drafting Project 3, you might also be experiencing that, and your peer readers might be able to see, really the argument seems to be about something else. Or maybe the claim is very clear, and for the most part, it's followed throughout the paper. So that, as your reader, the reader's job is first to identify the claim and see if they can follow that throughout the paper commence. Now finally, these papers aren't finished yet. Even in 6 days or whatever, they won't be finished yet. And And you seem to know that in your rhetorical reflections. I was happy to see many of you feel like you're making awesome progress on the drafting, but also you're leaving notes in those reflections about how you want to get this feedback from your peers so that you can continue to revise. That's great. That's really good time management. And even if you're writing most of this draft this week, you still will build in some significant revision time after you get peer reviews. So peers, readers, in revision, what do you think the writer should focus their attention on first? This doesn't have to mean the only thing that they should do, but where should they start? Should they be reading more? Do they really need to refine their claim? Is the paper completely lacking citation and they should go to the Purdue OWL site and get familiar with that because it's a lot easier to integrate citations early in the process than it is at the tail end? Is it something else? What should they start with early next week when they sit down with their paper and their peer feedback and my feedback to work on? Let's review the directions for the peer review letter assignment for this week. We did one of these for Project 1. I just want to go back over the instructions for this so that you can remember the overall intentions for this kind of peer review process. So for this peer review for Project 3, you're going to read 2 of your classmates' drafts. And again, these reviews are intended to help each of you use reader response feedback to revise your drafts and prepare those drafts for submission. Now, the drafts that we're doing this time through, they're not, like I just went over, they're not completely finished. You have at least 5 pages that you're sharing with your peers, but these peer review letters can help you get a sense of how your audience is feeling about your text, how they're able to follow the organization of the paper, and what they think you should keep working on, both in terms of meeting the assignment and in terms of making sure that you convey your argument clearly and convincingly to your audience. So in Canvas, you'll see the peer review assignments that you are being asked to do this week. You will see those show up sometime during the week. And by Friday night, your peer's draft should be available to you. You're going to read through the whole draft first, get a sense of that argument. It might not be clear, we're still in the draft stage, so you might have to read the whole thing to understand where the writer is really going with their argument. If you want, you can leave inline comments in the document to help you track your ideas so that when you go back to write your letter, you're able to do that. And then in a new Word document, then you'll compose this letter responding to the draft. And these bullet points are going to help you do that. Compose a greeting to the author, explain what you appreciate, what you liked, found interesting, wanted to know more about, felt connections with, and be specific about those things. Like actually go into moments in the text, sentences, paragraphs, just spots where they're writing that you thought were really working well. Same thing with places where you had trouble as a reader. Then think about the assignment itself, any project requirements they need to attend to, some encouraging things that you can leave for them, and close the letter. You will do these letters by Sunday night for homework. So it's really important as a whole team that we submit our drafts on time and complete the review on time so that everyone can keep working through the project. We are working on practicing our responsibility as writers and learners, acting on the understanding that learning is shared among the writer and others. So as we compose a text, that text represents both the learning that we're doing through our research. It may represent how we're coming to that topic through our own personal experiences, but it's also kind of a negotiation of how our readers are helping us think about how do we want to be most effectively writing this. Again, thinking about audience, we're writing for real audiences and purposes in this essay. You're thinking about me and your classmates as your audience, but also we're expanding that idea to thinking about an academic audience. And think about Wayne State specifically, people from which colleges, from which majors, from which disciplinary programs will be interested in your topic. Is it something that students in psychology would be interested in? Is it something that students in kinesiology would be interested in? Is it something that students in the education department would be interested in? Those and how are you drawing on scholarly sources from those disciplines to help be convincing in your argument? So those are things we're thinking of as writers and also as readers this week. Make sure that when you upload the peer review letter that you upload it so that your classmate can actually access the peer review letter. So upload it to their draft portal. So we're in the spot over here where you can leave comments. You can select to upload a file, and that's where you'll put your letter. That's where I will look for the letter. So I'll leave a note in the assignment about that too.